So this past week was my second year at CES, and while most of the show was about robots and AI and smart glasses, there was actually a lot hidden in here if you're like me and you were waiting to see what's next for virtual reality. In 2025, we had a whole wave of headsets either get announced or come to market. You had the Play for Dream, the Galaxy XR, the Steam Frame, and the Pimax Crystal Super. And all of those headsets have kind of defined where the industry is sitting right now outside of the metasphere. You've got your high-end standalone devices with bigger screens, better processors, and sleeker designs. And then you've got the tethered units that are still running off DisplayPort and paying basically zero attention to comfort or weight because they've always been aimed at enthusiasts who just kind of deal with it. But there has been a bit of a shift recently. Big screen kind of had the Superlight tethered form factor cornered for a while. And then last year we did start seeing things like Shiftall's Mega X and Pimax announcing things like the Dream Air. But I think after going to CES this year and seeing it for myself, it's pretty much official. VR is going super light. Some of the units that I tried out weigh under 100 grams, which is basically just a chunky pair of smart glasses, and it's pretty crazy to experience. So here's my roundup of the top 4 super light headsets I saw at CES this year, and everything that you need to know about them. Starting at number 4, we've got the XEO Big. So this is a headset that XEO announced last year at CES, and it completely fell off my radar. And I think part of that is probably because this company seems to be better known for the immersive audio and those crazy theater pod setups than anything actually VR related. So when I saw their name on the CES registry, I didn't really think about stopping by. But then I was walking past the booth and I'm like, oh, look, they have a headset. Wait, what is that? Did they make that? And sure enough, they did, and I had totally forgotten about it. Just a quick rundown on the numbers here. The headset itself is pretty light for what it's doing. It's roughly in the 200 gram range, and it's running dual 4K micro OLED displays. The FOV is kind of on the tighter side though. It's only about 100 degrees wide. So if you're coming from something like a Pimax or a Valve Index or even a Quest 3, you're going to notice it. Like the other headsets on this list, it is not a standalone VR headset. It's basically a wired wearable monitor that you plug into whatever you're using. Obviously, you can play VR on it with a PC, but it also works with a Steam Deck, your phone, tablets, even Nintendo Switches, which is something that not a whole lot of other headsets are doing, so you might actually get more use out of it than you would with another headset that doesn't have those compatibility layers. They had a driving sim setup, and that was fine, but I feel like the moment I really started to enjoy it was when I was sitting in one of their theater pods watching a movie on an IMAX screen. The downside here is the price. It's floating around $2,000, and some details like the exact refresh rate are still a little fuzzy until they actually ship it. And according to the folks there, that's probably not until the third quarter, so we're just kind of taking their word on a lot of stuff. But I'm not going to lie to you, I think that the compatibility is really cool, and hopefully I get my hands on one for a longer test. For number 3 on the list, I've got the Shiftall Mega X Mark II. This is another straight-up PC VR tethered headset, and it's built around micro OLED panels at 3552 by 3840 per eye, with up to a 90 Hz refresh rate. Shiftall's got this headset coming in at under 179 grams before you get into things like trackers and straps and accessories. And for reference, the Quest 3 is about 515 grams, so we're talking about roughly a third of the weight here. I've tried the Mark I version, and it was cool to see it at the show, even though honestly, I probably had a lot more fun with their other accessories. The thing about Shiftall is they seem to know exactly who their audience is with everything that they make, and this is definitely an enthusiast headset. The big highlight here for me is the comfort. The 2.0 strap that comes with the Mark II is much more comfortable than the 1.0 strap that comes with the Mark I. And it's a halo flip-up design, so you basically feel like you're not wearing anything. Now it is SteamVR tracking, so base stations are going to be required, which is a little concerning with Valve ceasing production on them. And the price on it is $18.99, and that's without controllers and without base stations. But since it's aimed for the enthusiast crowd, I imagine a lot of those folks probably have base stations and probably have controllers that they like. So this feels more like a company creating an upgrade path for Valve Index users than trying to create a customer base with early adopters. But if you're already deep in the enthusiast lane and you want that micro OLED clarity and you're fine with the whole PC VR setup lifestyle, then this is probably one of the more legit options in the Superlight category. For number 2 on my list, I've got the Pimax Dream Air. The Pimax Dream Air is something we've been hearing about for a while from Pimax, and it was a completely different experience in person than anything Pimax has ever made. And to be frank, I really enjoyed it. This is definitely Pimax trying to do something they've never done before, which is make a headset that actually feels like you could wear it for over an hour. The headset comes in under 200 grams, and it's also got the micro OLED displays plus up to a 90Hz refresh rate. Field of view is quoted to be about 110 degrees horizontally, so it's definitely not trying to be a crazy wide Pimax headset. Like all Pimax headsets, it is tethered over DisplayPort, so you're getting that uncompressed PCVR image, but they've done something kind of unique by splitting the cable and incorporating that into the strap. So the tension is actually equal on both sides instead of making you feel like you're being tugged right or left by your cable all the time. Tracking wise, they have a version for base stations and a version for SLAM tracking. So it looks like they're already kind of hedging their bets on base station support, and they're trying to bring new users into the fold, especially with their SE version of the Dream Air that comes in around $900, well under the price of the Big Screen Beyond, which is their most direct competitor. The immersive aspect of it was much better than I expected, and Pimax told me they're actively redesigning the facial interface and the strap to maximize comfort and get the lenses even closer to your eyes. And that is kind of one of the big selling points for the Dream Air. It doesn't really sound as exciting on paper as resolution numbers or processing capability, but if you nail the lenses, it's kind of a big deal. I mean, if they can keep the benefits of the pancake lenses but reduce the edge weirdness that you get with optics closer to your eyes, you can do a few things at once. You can make the headset feel bigger and more immersive without actually making the headset bigger, and you can make the clarity feel better across the entire lens rather than just the center, which is going to make things like reading text or cockpit sims or productivity, anything with your eyes scanning across the whole image, better. For Pimax, this is a big pivot from their usual aesthetic to actually caring about wearability. And for me, I think it's more proof that lenses and comfort are finally getting the attention that they've deserved for a while now, instead of taking a back seat to resolution and standalone processing. And finally, for number 1 on my list, I got a chance to try out Play for Dream's new prototype. I'll say this up front, it is not ready for market, not even a little bit, and the team at Play for Dream was pretty dodgy with the details, but I don't really blame them, because it's pretty obvious that there's very few things on this device that are actually finalized. But the experience itself was weightless, and I mean weightless. The device itself is under 100 grams, and with the nose support and the strap, it is just stupid light. For comparison, the full Play for Dream MR that I unboxed a while back is 650 grams. The Quest 3 is 515 grams, and this thing is like, I mean, it's not lighter than my Meta Ray-Bans, but it feels like it is, and that's what actually matters. And it's not just a plug-in display or a monitor like you see with some of the XReal devices. It self-tracks, it has full color pass-through, it has hand tracking, you can use it with controllers, and you can use it with Steam Link, so it is definitively a VR device. As far as the things like resolution, refresh rate, and exact FOV, they were not ready to stamp those on the wall yet, so I guess they're just kind of TBD for now. And even though Play for Dream was pretty cagey about the price, they did kind of let it slip a little bit that they want this to be a more budget-friendly option than their MR headset. Most likely under $1,000, but maybe even less than that. And if they can make that happen, it would make it one of, if not the lightest, cheapest micro OLED headset out there, which is a combo that nobody's really nailed yet. I don't know, and it doesn't feel like they do either, but we'll see if they can deliver on that. For now, it's still early, it's very much a prototype, but this is the device that really convinced me that PC VR and VR as a whole industry is really trying to pivot to ultralight devices. Alrighty, so that is CES for VR this year. I know that people love to say that VR needs better games, but I just don't think that that is the main issue anymore. There's lots and lots of great games out there, and lots of utility for VR outside of gaming. The main issue for a lot of people is that VR is just still kind of a hassle. Base stations, boundaries, batteries, comfort. In a lot of cases, you fight with the headset before you even get to experience VR. And half the time, after all of that, you're done in an hour because you're basically wearing a hot toaster on your head. So for me, seeing 4 different companies pushing Superlight all at once, that's a really good sign, and I think that means that comfort is finally becoming the battleground, not just specs. But I want to know what you guys think. Does the weight actually matter to you, or are pricing and specs the only thing that are going to sell you on a headset? Let me know down in the comments. I'm really curious to get your guys' take. And if you like this kind of video, let me know with a thumbs up and subscribe. This is kind of a different type of video than I've done in the past, and we're always experimenting to see what you guys like the best. But that's really all I've got for you guys today, so we will see you on the next one.